Sunday night edition of the Anaheim Calling Podcast. We're back to discuss an exciting back and forth, action-packed game that ended in a 3-2 overtime loss for the Ducks tonight against the Chicago Blackhawks at the Honda Center. Ryan Getzlaf's 1,000th career game, all of them played with the Anaheim Ducks, and in a crazy twist of fate, tonight was the 2,000th game in Anaheim Ducks franchise history.
Yeah, that's creepy.
And this was also Getzlaf's 1,000th game. So he's played exactly 50% of this franchise's games. That is pretty stunning.
Yeah, that's really eerie that has happened. And I said this a couple years ago, and I said it may not be a for sure thing now, but it's going to be at some point. Getzlaf is going to go, or I said this back then, Getzlaf is going to go down as the best Anaheim Duck of all time. And I think that was a couple years ago.
Oh, okay.
And I got a little flack for that because a lot of people thought that there's no way he'd surpass Paul Kariya, no way he'd ever surpass Teemu Selanne. And I think we're getting to the point where he's surpassing them. He's going past them. I mean, he's the longest tenured captain in franchise history. You look at what he's done for the franchise. Yes, he won the cup, but it was only early on in his career. Hasn't been able to deliver one as the captain, but still, you look at he's been the captain for the most successful franchise or successful period in franchise history, and winning a Stanley Cup is so hard. And he's put the Ducks in a position as captain to continually do that. Now, all of it doesn't fall on him. There's been some good trades, good coaching by Bruce Boudreau in different situations to be able to help them get to those situations. But Ryan Getzlaf's been at the front of all of it. He's been the leader of the franchise. And I think that's really huge. And I think that a lot of people that probably would try to argue as, no, he's not greater than Teemu, are people probably of my age or maybe even a little bit older who grew up with Teemu, and so there's a nostalgia factor there. But I think if you try to eliminate nostalgia from this and purely look at what they've done for the franchise, how long they've been captain, all the different factors, I don't think that there's really an argument that Teemu Selanne has been more important to the Ducks franchise than Ryan Getzlaf has. I think Ryan Getzlaf's the greatest Duck of all time, and I think he's going to go down as that.
Yeah, so I don't really have like a bias here. Just looking at the stats, I mean, Ryan Getzlaf has 934 points in 1,000 games with the Ducks. That's both a lot of points and it's a lot of games. I mean, he's kind of, I think that he's going to go, like, once this is all said and done, I know that Paul Kariya and Teemu Selanne, like you were saying, have the nostalgia factor. And I think you could also argue that Teemu Selanne at his peak may have been more dominant than Ryan Getzlaf. I mean, Ryan Getzlaf has had some outstanding seasons. I mean, he has one 90-point season, but he has multiple 70-point seasons and 80-point seasons. He's been more of a consistent type of producer over his career. But you look at Teemu Selanne's record with the Ducks, and he has two 50-goal seasons. He had 3 seasons in a row, 45-plus goals, which is no small feat. Granted, actually, this would even help. This was kind of during the start of the dead puck era, the late 90s, where offense was really slowing down. And Selanne and Kariya were both high flyers at a time where offense was really being stifled out of the game. And it took really 10 years for that trend to reverse. So it's hard to say which. It kind of comes down then to what you value more, whether it's longevity or pure dominance. But I think there's a middle ground to be had there.
I think it's a mix.
And I don't think you can really come up with a wrong answer either way.
Yeah, I think it has to be a mix because I think someone who's been with the team for only 3 or 4 years and scored an insane pace, that doesn't make them the best player in franchise history. The longevity has to play a part, but I think also there needs to be the peak performance. And I think we forget Getzlaf at one point in time, I believe he may have been the runner-up, or he was definitely, I think, a finalist for the Hart Trophy at one point in time. I believe it was a year Claude Giroux won the Hart. I might be mistaken there, but he's had some great seasons. He's never racked up the goals because that's never been a part of his game like a Teemu Selanne, but he's been huge. And you also look at his performance in the playoffs. A lot of people will kind of point to him not performing well in the playoffs or not being a playoff performer, but that's just not true at all. I'm trying to look right now, but I believe he's almost close to a point per game in the playoffs over the course of his career. I'm finding it right now. So here where did it go? I will find it in 1 second, actually. But yeah, he's been able to put up numbers all throughout his career. Been able to put up his numbers in the playoffs.
Yeah,
also.
he has 137 points in 127 or 125 career playoff games.
Yeah.
So he's actually, or sorry, I was looking at the penalty minutes. He's got 120 points in 125 games.
Yeah,
so just
nearly
under
a point per game.
Nearly yeah, so that whole playoff narrative is bogus. Shocker. Yeah. Shocker that wouldn't be correct.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, and to your point about him and his Hart Trophy season or runner-up, yeah, he was second to Sidney Crosby in 13-14, where a 26-year-old Sidney Crosby had 104 points that season. So pretty stiff competition there if you're Ryan Getzlaf. Although Getzlaf does have the longevity factor, Teemu Selanne did play 966 games in Anaheim. So it's just people don't really remember it in the same way because the time was split up.
Yeah, exactly.
There was a pretty interesting middle period there where he bounced around a little bit. But overall, just two tremendous players, two Hall of Famers. Getzlaf's obviously not there yet, but I'm willing to bet that when it's all said and done, Getzlaf will be in the Hall of Fame. It seems like a layup, right?
Yeah, it's funny. I don't know if you remember this, but ESPN put out something a couple years ago, almost looking at different categories that you could put someone in terms of needing to be in the Hall of Fame or different check boxes. And they only had Getzlaf having one or two of those check boxes checked, but it didn't make sense because he had all four of them. I mean, this is a guy that's had success both in the NHL and outside the NHL. He's won a not won a Hart Trophy. Sorry, that is Corey Perry that won the Hart Trophy. But he's won an Olympic gold medal. He's won a Stanley Cup. He's won a World Junior, I believe. Also, he won a World Championship.
He's going to get in the Hall of Fame.
Yeah,
I don't even think it's a debate. Now, what you could argue is whether or not he'll be first ballot if he'll get in his first time around, because as great as he is, and by the way, my own opinion is that he will get in right away. But if you compare his career to Teemu Selanne's in terms of those check boxes, it's not nearly as close. I mean, Selanne was a 4-time All-Star, was Rookie of the Year, has won a Rocky Richard Trophy. The hole in Getzlaf's resume is the lack of individual awards. But that's lesser talents have gotten in.
Let me ask you this on the Ryan Getzlaf front. So as of right now, he's currently second in Ducks history with in points at 933, with Teemu Selanne having 988 points.
Mm-hmm.
Will he surpass Teemu Selanne this season?
So the difference there. What's the point difference?
This was before tonight's game. So before tonight's game, the difference was, I believe, that would be 55 points.
Yeah, no, it's going to happen this season. If you look at the way that he started the season, he's already off to a really good start. He's already outpacing himself significantly from last year. He's got 11 points in 16 games. So, and also Getzlaf he only has 4 assists so far this season, and I would imagine that will start picking up. One issue that Getzlaf has been facing is that his line mates have been really inconsistent. He hasn't really had consistent wingers, consistent offensive threats next to him. As we will discuss, though, in tonight's game, that trend may soon reverse.
All right.
And we'll see him start to pick up the assists.
I got one more question for you looking at the all-time franchise numbers.
It's totally worthwhile talking about Getzlaf here.
Completely.
This is no small achievement.
Completely. So, here's another one, and this is more so, I think, not this season, because I don't really think this is going to happen this season, but more so looking at the course of Getzlaf's career with looking at how his goal-scoring track record has been. He's currently sitting at 268 goals. Paul Kariya's third all-time at 300. Does he catch Paul Kariya? He would need, what would that be, 32 goals?
Yeah, he's going to catch him, no question. I think Getzlaf's playing at least through the end of his current contract, and he's probably going to pick up another season or two maybe after that.
Probably.
So, yeah, he's going to catch him, no question.
And more than likely. He scores about 14, 15 goals a season, so
would Ryan Getzlaf surpassing Paul Kariya in the all-time goals list, would that change your opinion between those two at all, or does it not really matter?
No, it doesn't really matter to me.
I don't think so either.
I think as of right now, I'd make the argument that Getzlaf is the best player in franchise history, and that's without him surpassing Teemu in points. That's without him surpassing Paul Kariya in goals. I think there's a couple different things that you can maybe make the argument for with when they were playing and different things like that. Yes, they were playing in the trap era at different points, but they also were playing in more of a high-flying early 90s at different points in time, both Korea and Solani. So it's a little bit of a give and take when you look at that. And I think when you look at the success that the teams had, the fact that Getzlaf has played those games all in one period of time and was captain for majority of it, I think there's too much there for me to say he's not the best all time.
Yeah, it's really hard to say because, again, if you look at Paul Kariya's best seasons with the Ducks, he was extremely dominant. I mean, he was a five-time All-Star to Getzlaf's one. So it's just hard to say. And you also have the injury factor when it comes to Kariya. I would still just philosophically, I think Ryan Getzlaf by default is more impactful because being a center, being a big playmaking center, he's a guy who's more of a foundational piece to a franchise. And of course, that's with all due respect to Paul Kariya. But I do think that Getzlaf's, just by nature of the position that he plays, just tends to be more important, more impactful.
Yeah, I completely 100% agree with that. And so, and I think there needs to be the point made that when I'm saying he's the best Duck of all time, that's not me saying he's the best player, had the most impactful season. It is simply he is the best Duck. And I think that is a different argument than the best player to put on the Duck sweater. I think there's two different arguments.
The most good.
Yes.
The most very good.
Yes.
Yeah. No, I mean, it's so hard when you're evaluating careers because what do you value? Like I was saying earlier, what do you value more? Dominance, longevity? Hard to say. But yeah, and Ryan Getzlaf, by the way, now at the ripe young age of age 34, had a really good game tonight. I thought that he was the Ducks' best forward by a significant margin, making plays all over the ice, playing in all situations. And although the Ducks didn't win this one, just I guess your thoughts. It doesn't have to be just tonight, but Ryan Getzlaf overall so far this season, and also maybe moving forward, how you think he'll keep progressing as he definitely enters some of the more twilight years of his career.
I think the most interesting thing with Ryan Getzlaf this season is he's shooting the puck a lot. If you look at his shots on goal, he has 37 shots on goal in 15 games. Last season, he had 133 and 67. 2 seasons ago, he had 117 and 56. So he's and those are 2 seasons ago, it would be 2 shots on goal per game. Last season was about 1.9 shots on goal per game. This year, it's about 2.5. So he has about a half shot on goal more per game, which is significant. That's definitely a pretty significant jump, a half shot on goal per game. And especially if you're seeing a jump in shooting percentage by him getting into dangerous positions and shooting more on the power play, that's going to make a difference. And so I think the biggest thing is he's shooting the puck, and he's also, I think the assist totals are down, and I'm not sure how much of that is on him, though.
I actually don't think it's on him at all.
Not jumping ahead too much, but in tonight's game, he had a ridiculous behind the back pass that found Rickard Rakell, who just
completely missed.
Wound up for a slap shot and went so high. But that's the type of pass that Ryan Getzlaf has been dishing all season. Maybe not that highlight reel-esque, but he's been finding guys in dangerous spots, and they just haven't been finishing.
Yeah. So let's get more into tonight's game. So on Friday's podcast, did you guys talk about Max Jones being sent down?
So we did not, because that happened yesterday, and we actually we talked a little bit about the idea of sending him down and whether it would be him being sent down or Comtois. And I actually thought Comtois would be more likely to be sent down because of age, but I was wrong. So there's that.
Yeah. So announced yesterday. I don't know why. I see if you guys covered that Friday, because I checked my phone last night and saw that he got sent down, and somehow I didn't catch it on Twitter, which is very, very rare for me. But hey, it happens. Max Jones sent down to the AHL. We don't know yet when Andre Kasha will play, so it's not a perfect one-to-one type move. What do you make of that? Because, my quick take here is just I think Max Jones hasn't really been that good lately. I think he's kind of struggling to find a consistent spot in the lineup, which is always a bit of a sign that a young player is probably going to be set down, because unless he can establish a niche, kind of like Troy Terry has or Sam Steele has to a degree, a coach is probably going to prefer a veteran who can just fill a spot. And Jones has been sent down now, and I don't think he was necessarily playing bad, but he was struggling to really impact the game, so to speak. Wasn't shooting a whole lot. Did have some decent underlying metrics. And the Ducks did the same thing with Brendan Gooley. Brendan Gooley was not playing well. I mean, coming back from injury. And I think that the Ducks are just choosing to be patient with these players, and that's not necessarily a bad thing.
No, and with Brendan Gooley, there were quotes that came out, I think, after the last pod that you and I did, that, or maybe they came out during and we mentioned them. We do a lot of these. But where basically the Ducks, both Bob Murray and Dallas Eakins, said that they wanted to kind of get him into some softer matchups, different things like that, have him coming back from injuries and such. But with the injury to Manson, they weren't able to do that. So instead of doing that, they felt like sending him down was the right course of action. And in regards to Max Jones, I think, he hasn't been that impactful. It almost feels like he's trying to do too much when he's on the ice. His underlying numbers aren't fantastic either. If you're looking at, I mean, we talked about it going into the season that it felt like it was either going to be him or Comtois making this roster, and it turns out both were on it. But I think long-term, big picture type of situation, it was just going to be one of them on the season for most of the season, or one of them on the roster for most of the season. So it makes sense that one of them was sent down with the Andre Kasha getting close to coming back. And last episode I said that I thought it would be Comtois because I thought that Comtois had more to gain from being with San Diego than Jones would, due to age and different things. But I don't think that there was a wrong answer to that with either of them going down. I think that it will be interesting to see what Jones does, because we saw it last year with Troy Terry. He got sent down, and he was able to kind of take it in stride and ended up using it to his benefit. Are we going to see a similar thing with Max Jones? Because for as much as everyone likes what Jones has done in terms of how he's looked, because he always looks like he's skating hard, he's a guy that if you're just watching and not looking at numbers, not dissecting different things, it almost looks like he's doing a lot, but sometimes it's stuff that doesn't exactly help the play. And so it's finding out how he can get himself into play, how he can get himself into those dangerous spots and dangerous situations. So I think overall it's a good thing, and I'm not opposed with the fact that we've talked about, I mean, this podcast, one of the themes so far this year has been process. If you want the kids to be able to learn that process, part of it is them understanding that if they aren't playing well, they may have to go down to the AHL. I also think a big part of this is Andre Kasha coming back.
Yeah, I think that's a big part of it. There's no one else that's really a candidate to be sent down. And so Kasha coming back into the lineup, someone was going to have to move out, and who are they going to send down? If it's not Comtois, then that list gets really, really short. And so, and I do think that Comtois has just outplayed Jones. I think he's just been a bit more impactful. He seems to get chances more often. And that's I think, the thing that Jones is a victim of here is that he's a guy who isn't really physical, isn't really skilled. And if you're not scoring or hitting in a depth role, it's going to be hard for you to stay in the lineup. That's just how NHL coaches tend to roll with these things. And also another thing that I think has really hurt him is the penalties. I mean, against Vancouver on Friday, just continuing to take these absent-minded penalties. And I think that also really hurt his case to stay in the lineup.
Zena's 8 asks, and I think that this may be something you'll get to. Why can't it be Mr. Traded for a fourth four be sent down, a.k.a. Nicolas Deslauriers?
Yeah, because Nick Deslauriers is not waiver exempt.
Yep.
And so if they try to send him down, he has to go on waivers first. And not that he's necessarily in danger of being claimed to be charitable here.
Yeah.
But I don't think the Ducks are wanting to do that. And also there's just kind of this unwritten thing that unless you're a veteran with a big contract, you just don't get sent out of the minors. So
was it you or was it CJ that said on the podcast that Max Jones at this point is essentially tracking to be Nick Ritchie, and that would be what he, in terms of it's a very similar
to that,
a very similar trajectory right now. So there's a lot of things that Max Jones needs to kind of work on to get his game to that level, because as of right now, Max Jones, he's just not providing the points that are needed from the role that he's in. And I know a lot of people want to give Nick Ritchie flack, but he's providing the points that Max Jones, quite frankly, isn't so far this year. And
also Nick Ritchie isn't a liability at 5-on-5, which Jones has been. underlying numbers are awful. And it's hard to say, of course, how much of that is him in this limited sample size. But on the other side of our first break here, we are finally, I believe, going to get into the recap of tonight's game. Okay, back from the first intermission. Let's just dive into the recap here. Did you have any final thoughts though on Max Jones and the fact that he got sent down?
I'm trying to find it. We had a question from my Kaka Warrior 22 that said, "How many games until Jones is not waiver exempt?" I think it's a pretty fair amount, but give me 1 sec.
Yeah,
I'll look that up for us so we have the correct information. The only other thing before we get into the recap that I think is of note is Jacob Larson comes back into the game, into the lineup, and Corbinian Holzer comes out. And we get Josh Mahura paired with Cam Fowler going into the game.
Yeah, that's a good note to end our little build up to the recap here. Is that the pairings tonight were interestingly constructed as opposed to what we've seen the last few games, where Holzer and Larson have been such a mainstay, and I think that Dallas Eakins rightfully finally pulled the plug on that Larson-Holzer pairing because it was just not working. It was not good against Vancouver on Friday. Hadn't been good at all recently. So this felt like it was coming for some time now.
So real quick, Max Jones waivers. It's whichever of these comes first. So it's either 2 seasons. So I believe this season and next, either both those have to pass, or 118 more games played. So whichever comes first.
Yeah, so they
NHL
can
games played.
They can keep this going all season long.
Yes,
for the rest of this season.
Yeah.
So first period, I mean, this game was real choppy to start. I thought that the Ducks had a good first kind of 5 to 10 minutes, and then started doing what they have been doing recently this season, which is getting in their own way with penalty trouble.
Yep.
I think that's starting to become a theme here. I mean, it's also hard to say whether or not that'll continue because I don't really know how you predict for penalties. But I think the Ducks game lately has just been a little more scrambly. You know, it's although some of the numbers were pretty good tonight, I thought that against a team in Chicago who played last night and went to overtime against LA, a team in Chicago who isn't good this season, I was expecting the Ducks to be a lot sharper against Chicago. And this game wasn't really that at all. How much of that do you attribute to maybe a little bit of a layoff between the two games, or maybe just the fact that the lineup got switched around a little bit, or maybe they just didn't bring it? I mean, I don't know. What do you think?
I don't really think it's a little bit of a layoff. I mean, they played Friday, and so
they played Friday.
Yeah, so. It's not as if it was a bigger layoff, and I don't think the lineup changed really. I think it's. I don't really know what to attribute it to. I think tonight's game, the start was better than we've seen in other games. I don't think it was as bad as the Vancouver game, but I think there is a bit of a trend happening.
Yeah, no, absolutely. And I think that the biggest reason for them struggling in terms of just their cohesion at 5-on-5 is the change in the defense pairings. That's something that they're really still trying to work through that. And
that's true.
To be fair, the pairings tonight did acquit themselves quite nicely if you look at their shot attempt differentials and scoring chances. But you're putting a lot of faith into guys like Eric Goodbranson and Josh Mahura, who are kind of at polar opposite ends of the spectrum, but who aren't really established puck movers in the NHL.
I mean, here's the big question. What other options do they have right now? I mean, granted, they went out and they traded for Eric Goodbranson and tried to address the hole.
Here.
But, I mean, this is what they have. This is what they have, and...
Well, Brendan Gooley is in the AHL.
True.
By the franchise's choice.
True.
So, I mean, there's that to consider.
True. But I think that it's Dallas Eakins trying to figure out how to put things together. And I think, so the Mo Morgan, our Twitch chat says, losing Manson shows how thin the Ducks are at defense. And I think that that's very true because it's not as if they were utilizing Lindholm Manson as this 25-minute a night pairing, but that at least gives you the stability. And it seems as if without that, they've struggled a bit.
Yeah, it's just a chain reaction. Once you unplug that first pairing, all of a sudden you're asking more of other guys that aren't used to being asked of that, and this is what you get. But again, tonight they did put up good numbers, so I have to stress that. It's not as if they played poorly. It just doesn't look quite as convincing, especially against a team in Chicago, who's not very good.
Yeah, and I think look-wise, there's a lot of things you can do from an eye test level with tonight's game. It felt choppy. It felt off. But I think when you look at the numbers and you kind of really try to dissect what happened in this game simply comes down to special teams. I really think that was the biggest thing. The Ducks at 5-on-5 generated more chances. Yes, they got outshot a bit at 5-on-5, but when you look at expected goals and look at a bunch of different things, they had the better of the shot attempt or better of the quality, and it was simply Robin Lehner made a bunch of really insane saves that most likely he's not going to make every single time. And it was just one of those nights, but it was more so the penalty kill. It was more so the untimely penalties, the Lindholm trip in a bad situation, or putting the Ducks in a bad situation going down 5-on-3. It was the fact that Michael Del Zotto, for whatever reason, was the person out there killing the 5-on-3. Wasn't able to get his stick down to block the front net pass, or Ryan Miller not getting his stick there. This came down to we eliminate special teams from our analysis in terms of looking at the numbers, but that doesn't discount the fact that that they're important. They're a big part of this game. Having a good power play, having a good penalty kill can really make a difference within a game, within the course of a season. And we saw it tonight. The Chicago power play was able to cash in for 2 goals. And I believe actually maybe one of them wasn't technically, but they essentially got 2 power play goals. The Ducks got 1. And that's, I mean, yes, the game went to overtime.
And the Ducks had plenty of opportunities on the power play. Yeah, because in that first period, I mean, Boqvist picks up a goal. And then right after that, Sam Steele gets robbed by Robin Lehner. And then after that, Nick Ritchie picks up his second delay of game penalty this season. That feels like a lot in the short amount of games to have already 2 of those. Also, it's probably just dumb luck because that rule is a little arbitrary. But it is what it is. Guys know they're not supposed to do that, which is a theme that I'll get back into as we go through this recap. But after Ritchie takes that penalty, the Hawks would then go up 2-0. Patrick Kane, just doing what he does best, gets a pass across the slot. Both Jacob Larson and Michael Del Zotto did not look very good on this play, just letting a pass go through. What really was infuriating to watch is that Kane is trying to look off Larson in the slot, trying to get him to open up and free up the lane so that he can get it over to DeBrincat in the other circle. And as Jacob Larson in this situation, you almost just don't have to, you just shouldn't even care if Kane is looking you off, looking towards the point. Your sole job, your sole responsibility as a penalty killing defenseman right in front of the net is to just not let anything through. And instead he kind of reaches forward towards the point, and that creates the lane for Kane to slip it through.
Wait, are we talking about the second goal?
Yeah.
That was Del Zotto in front of the net.
Well, Larson was also there. Maybe I'm thinking of the third goal.
Or maybe I'm missing. It looks like it looks like both Larson and Del Zotto were on the ice, so I may have mixed them up.
Yeah, no, they just both looked pretty poor on that play.
Fair.
And,
not bad.
And then right after that, Aikens would keep Larson out there, and he would give up yet another centering pass into the slot. So I really have, for those longtime listeners, I've gone really back and forth on Jacob Larson over the course of this podcast. And tonight was one of those games that reminded me why I was so skeptical in the early going of his career, because he's just so rough defensively sometimes.
Yeah. By the way, Chad saying it was Del Zotto that was the one in front getting tied up by Taves, who let the cross ice pass come through.
Yeah. Okay. So there we go. Maybe I'm just completely full of it. Second period, though. Second period. Ryan Getzlaf picking up an assist in his 1,000th game, gets the puck back to Eric Goodbranson at the point, who gets a shot all the way through traffic. Sam Steele with a nice screen in front to make it 2-1 at that point, and a little back and forth there. No one was really sure who had actually scored the goal.
I think they've awarded it still to Sam Steele.
No, it's Goodbranson officially now.
They've shifted it back to Goodbranson?
Yeah, I mean, I don't really see how it would have been Steele. It doesn't touch him on the way to the front of the net. So it looks like he's right there, but I don't think it actually touches him.
Yeah.
And then moving over into the third period here, this is where things got really interesting, especially from both what was going on the ice and also in terms of what Dallas Aikens was doing with his lineup. This is where we would see Dallas Aikens really just put his lines into a blender and to very positive results, unequivocally positive results. He put Sam Steele on the left wing next to Ryan Getzlaf and Rickard Rakell, which was a stunning move because Sam Steele has been exclusively a center since being called up from San Diego. And now he's really struggled defensively lately. I mean, there's really no sugarcoating it. He hasn't been very good in that end of the ice. He looks really good carrying the puck and making plays, and that tends to mask a little bit of what he's doing on the other end. And I thought in particular tonight he was struggling defensively. So reuniting Getzlaf and Rakell is something that we've actually talked in the podcast here and makes a whole lot of sense, especially when you consider, like we were talking about earlier, that he just hasn't had guys who can finish his plays around him. And Steele looked really good next to those two because he's a really smart player. And I think that when he's relieved of those defensive responsibilities as a center, his playmaking can really shine through. And you look at their numbers, they posted above 60% in terms of shot attempt percentage, 79% expected goals for, and 75% high danger chance percentage. So they dominate out there. They only played just over 6 minutes at 5-on-5. So it's a very small sample, but it's very encouraging.
Yeah, completely. And they seem to work well together. I don't know if I foresee them sticking together and Sam Steele staying on the wing permanently. I think that's a whole different conversation than the one we're having right now. Simply because you look at the minutes for the likes of Max Comtois and Devin Shore, they were both like below 8 minutes on the night at 5-on-5. And now part of that was the penalties, but you look at shift charts, neither of them played that much late in the game, neither Max Comtois or Devin Shore. And that's mainly because Sam Steele got moved up and they almost just started going 3 lines compared to 4 lines. So I don't really foresee that happening. Sam Steele staying on the wing, unless maybe they bring up Lundestrom, maybe. But that line as a whole worked really well together. I mean, Getzlaf was just absolutely dishing everywhere. And then I felt like Sam Steele was really doing a good job bringing up the puck through the middle of the ice, really looking for a pass, and also not being afraid to take a shot when he had it in the middle of the ice. Now, sometimes it did get blocked. He needs to kind of learn how to be able to, if he's in the middle of the ice, a couple guys around him, that shot's probably not going to get through. And he has a tendency, it seems like, to be caught from behind with a little stick check, which breaks up his shot. But the fact that he's finding that dangerous spot and is trying to get his shot off, it's going to be good. And so I think that line as a whole was really interesting. And honestly, I'd love to just see Jakob Silfverberg put with Getzlaf and Rakell and see what happens. I've been wanting that to happen all season now because we've seen what Rakell and Silfverberg can do together. And I know that's more of a loading up type of situation as compared to having the skill distributed throughout the lineup. But Rickard Rakell and Jakob Silfverberg have shown that they have extremely good chemistry with one another. And so if you put Ryan Getzlaf into that mix, that's definitely not going to get worse.
No, exactly. Now, one thing that is, I think the most significant shift of that line, though, might not even be Steele going to wing. It might be Rickard Rakell returning to the right wing. We've seen him being on his off wing for the last 3 years now, basically. And all of a sudden, he's back playing on his strong side, which is, again, just Dallas Eakins. I'm just not afraid to flip everything on his head.
I love it.
Mid-game.
I love it.
I appreciate it just because it gives me something to talk about. That's definitely something that I can say. But also, it worked. I mean, there's no questioning that it worked tonight. And the thing is, I actually think that they could potentially continue doing this because of Devin Shore's versatility. Devin Shore actually moved back to center after the move. They had Comtois with Shore and Silfverberg, and then they had Henrique with Ritchie and Terry. So, and then you still have the fourth line of Delorier, Grant,
I think they were,
and Rowney.
They were double shifting Silfverberg in a lot of different spots at that point in time.
Yeah, but that was probably more due to the score.
True.
They could still hypothetically not have Steele at center and have 4 NHL centers.
True.
So that's an interesting wrinkle now. And I often look at moving a young prospect young center prospect over the wing.
Don't you do it.
As kind of
Don't you do it.
Okay, once this starts happening.
Don't you do it.
It's almost like, you go to your fridge and you open up the freezer and you see the ice cream in there and you're like, I know I really shouldn't do this. But you take a little bit and it tastes really good. And then all of a sudden you're having ice cream every night. this is kind of how it starts. This is how it starts, the center to wing debate. It's like, oh, man, that really worked the first time. Sam Steele looked really good on the wing. Maybe, just maybe, we should try this again because look at the numbers.
I mean, look at Rickard Rakell.
And look at Rickard Rakell back on his strong side. So I'm not saying that's what's going to happen here, but they've kind of opened the can of worms a little bit.
A little bit. I don't foresee this being a long-term
I
thing.
think, yeah, and I think ultimately Sam Steele still projects as a center. That hasn't changed because of one game. What has not changed, but what has been added into the equation is that he has struggled a little bit this season defending his end of the ice, and that's to be expected. He's a 21-year-old center in his first full-time NHL duty, so that's just kind of part of the deal. That's part of the growing pains, and maybe moving him to the wing is just a way for the Ducks to kind of let him keep some of his confidence, as he makes it through the 82-game grind. I don't think there's really anything wrong with that, and I don't think that ultimately takes away from his long-term projection as a center.
Yep, I don't either. I still would like to see him, especially this season, get more time at center than wing.
I mean, you'd rather see them tough it out with him, which is an interesting push and pull right now, where you're seeing guys like Jones and Gooley getting sent down, but you're seeing guys like Steele and Terry and Comtois staying up. So there's a push and pull in terms of, okay, what's best for the franchise right now? What's best for these players' development right now? And I think that they're mostly doing it the right way. I think Terry's not going back to the AHL.
So good.
He's playing
Very
like
good.
an NHL player. Sam Steele has some growing pains right now, which is fine. And then Comtois, I think he may be doing a little more back and forth. But overall, I think that they're striking a good balance between the long term and the short term.
Yeah, I don't see Steele or Terry being in the AHL all this year. I could see Comtois and Jones swapping spots in the AHL. I mean, that's kind of what I thought beginning of the year. Nothing I've seen so far this year has really swayed my opinion to change. So
I could potentially see Steele going back for a little bit, just because now that Brendan Gooley has been sent back. I feel like, well, I mean, that's fine. I'm just saying I could see it because I'd never thought that Gooley would get sent down.
True.
And here we are with him down in the minors. But the thing is, as long as Steele the thing with Steele is that he's still adding value in certain areas. He's good on the power play, and he can still produce even if his role changes, which is something that Gooley wasn't really doing. And when you're a defenseman, your minutes are a lot more high leverage.
Yeah. Sorry to backtrack 1 sec on Dallas Eakins shifting up the lines. One thing I do want to make mention is I'm a person who wants to see a coach be able to try new stuff, because if he gets stuck in what he's doing, gets stuck in everything, there's no way that the team's going to get better. And if the coach isn't trying out new stuff, trying to make the team better, trying out new situations, even if it doesn't always work, at least he's trying out stuff to make the team better. And I think that's one thing that I'm very happy to see with this, is that he's not afraid to try things out and see how they go. And they might not all work, but at least he's trying to fix things, trying to make a difference, understanding that something's not going right and something has to change. The only thing that he basically hasn't changed that should get changed is that fourth line.
Yeah, but he's in love with that fourth line. Those are the workers. Those are the guys who bring it every night. Those are the guys who get into the trenches.
Brief sidebar. What do you think of the interview that Craig Constance on the Full 60 had with Dallas Eakins?
Oh, it was great. I mean, Dallas Eakins is a tremendous interview to begin with. He's a very quotable guy, and I learned that he and I listened to the same podcast, the Jocko podcast.
Yeah, you were very on board with that.
I was a little stoked about that.
The thing. So this is a really, really great interview. The Full 60 podcast. Craig Constance does great work with it. He interviewed Dallas Eakins for essentially a full 60 minutes. The thing I found most interesting was that he had read the article that you and I had cited early on in the season, talking about when it's best to pull the goalie.
Yeah, and he actually agreed with me more than you.
Yeah, I guess so.
About being more aggressive.
But he even said he had that interesting thought. He's like, well, why don't you just pull the goalie at the end of the second period?
Yeah.
And he's like, what if you don't want to go down the rabbit hole too much with it? But it was very telling, very insightful, and definitely worth a listen for anyone out there that hasn't listened to it yet. I believe it's open to everyone, even if you're not an Athletic subscriber.
Yeah, no, definitely recommend that you go check that out. I believe it is available on Apple Podcasts. So we're going to take our second break here. At the end of it, or on the other side of it, we're going to get into the end of the recap and get into some listener questions. Okay, back from the second break here. So let's wrap up this recap. Interesting end to this game, to say the least. So the Ducks power play really just coming up short on a terrible penalty by Jonathan Toews. Just slashes Rickard Rakell right in the hands, and somehow was very much in disagreement with the referee, which I found shocking because, this when the NHL first started really coming down on slashes and being a lot more strict, especially on the slash to the hands. I believe that was like 2 or 3 seasons ago.
Something like that.
It's been a while. There's been plenty of time for players to adjust to that criteria. Now, to be somewhat fair to Jonathan Toews here, refs are very inconsistent with this type of play.
Yep.
But it's still something you shouldn't do. It's still something that the line has been drawn in the sand. And so here's where it gets better, is that it happens, the Ducks aren't able to score, and then it happens again. Toews does the exact same play right after coming out of the box. This one was maybe a little more ticky-tack, but amazingly, after all of that, knowing that that's where the line is drawn, he goes back in and does it again. This time, though, the Ducks would make the Blackhawks pay, with none other than Sam Steele providing a beautiful assist over to Nick Ritchie, who just finds himself wide open on the left side of the ice and just roofs it home.
Yeah.
And Drake Caggiula, I think that's Drake Caggiula, yeah. The Blackhawks penalty kill not looking incredibly stout here, but it was still a really nice play by Sam Steele, especially because even when a guy looks wide open like that, that opening isn't going to be there forever. And being able to just hit the target on time or even ahead of time is sometimes just half the battle. And he does well to get it over Duncan Keith's stick, get it over the other defenseman's stick, and all Nick Ritchie has to do is shoot it into an empty net. So that would make it 2-2 with plenty of time left on the clock.
Yep, and really good to see Nick Ritchie with that finish. I mean, so far this season, he's shooting 3.8%. That was before tonight's game. So that was bound to go up at some point. So it's really good to see him hit the back of the net. He's been probably one of the best Ducks performers at 5-on-5 in terms of driving play. In terms of finishing or having high skill type plays, he's definitely not there. He's not up there with Silfverberg and Rakell. But I think Nick Ritchie's had a really good start to the season for himself, and he deserves to get a goal here. And it's something that I'm hoping to see more of. He was put on the power play for essentially this reason, to give him a left-handed shot option on that left side, to give him also a big body that can go in front of the net and really kind of clog things up. And so it's really good to see him finish. I mean, the pass from Fowler to Steele was really great, and then Steele's ability to pick out Ritchie right away and find him, then Ritchie finishes it. It's just a really great tic-tac-toe play that kind of shows the type of puck movement that you need on a power play to be successful. You have the puck going from high to low and then from one side of the ice to the other. Essentially, you're forcing Lehner to move in multiple different directions and open up lots of different holes. And if in order to make a save, would have to make some sort of acrobatic, out of his mind save, which granted, he had a few of them tonight. So wouldn't be out of the realm of possibility tonight, but the chances of you scoring on that are relatively high.
Okay, Jake, so we're at the 45-minute mark, and I'm going to apologize in advance for making you to force you to edit some more, but my recording device battery is reaching very low, so I'm going to switch over to the AirPods for the last 15 or so minutes. So for those who are watching recorded on YouTube, I apologize if the sound quality takes a little bit of a hit here, but I also want us to continue onward. So give me 1 second. I'm going to go grab my charger.
Well, I'm just going to sit here and talk to our Twitch chat. How's everything going out there for you? You all having a good time? Everyone's fantasy football team doing well? Because mine's not doing well. I've lost 4 games in a row. I had a really good start to the season. 5 straight wins. I'm looking up another loss right now. It's not too great. Put up the lowest score. Went from having the highest score of the season to having the lowest score of the season. It was not great. Was not great. So, yeah. Let's see. Lockdown Late Night chimes in with first mistake being playing fantasy sports. That's just wrong. That's just so wrong. That's just so wrong.
How poorly do I sound here?
You sound fine.
Too much further to go here. So, picking back up. Are you ready?
Yes, I am.
is very good. I actually do wonder what Chicago's future in net is going to be with both he and Corey Crawford being free agents at the end of this season. So after the Ducks would tie the game back up, a lot of pressure put on by Anaheim to end the game. Ryan Getzlaf had a couple both Ryan Getzlaf and Ryan Miller had some highlight reel moments. Ryan Miller making a spectacular save on Andrew Shaw. Ryan Getzlaf with a really great shift where he kind of goes behind his back to create a chance for Ricard Raquel, or was it Raquel, or it was definitely Raquel in front, who just wasn't able to put it away. Ducks aren't able to grab the lead late, though. They then go into overtime, and I mean, just a few seconds in, the Hawks come down on the rush. Jonathan Toews slams on the brakes. Adam Henrique isn't able to keep up with them. Toews then sends it across to Patrick Kane, who also isn't really being covered by Cam Fowler. Kane is left wide open, and he finishes it off. 3-2 win for the Hawks. I think look at the kind of the summary of this game. And this is such a maybe a bit of benefit of hindsight here, but if the Ducks had just managed to stay out of their own way a little bit, they probably would have won this game handily.
Yeah, this is a game where I talked about it. Power plays for power play or special teams play. You have the Blackhawks scoring 2 goals, Ducks scoring 1. That's the difference. If Lindholm doesn't take that tripping penalty and doesn't put the Ducks down 5-on-3, this game very likely could end up 2-1 as the final score, with the Ducks winning this game in regulation. So penalties have been an issue for this team. They've been an issue for this team for a long time. And it's something that they really need to clean up, especially in their own zone. And, I mean, we talked about Max Jones. That could be a very big reason why he was sent down was the penalties he took. Because they're really trying to clean that up. But tonight's game, that was the difference.
Hard to say, whether it's the fact that they're taking penalties, but also that their penalty kill doesn't seem to be very solid right now. But even when you have a really good penalty kill, you still shouldn't bank on the fact that you can just take penalties and kill them off. It's still not a sound strategy regardless. So I don't really know what the answer here is for the Ducks necessarily, because a lot of these penalties aren't really, I mean, they're not goal. They're not plays to prevent a scoring chance. They're just sometimes dumb luck, sometimes just bizarre plays.
Yeah, true.
So I don't really know what the antidote is here. I don't necessarily think it's a lack of discipline, which is kind of weird to say, at least not tonight.
Fair.
Definitely not tonight, although we do have a trend here that's growing.
Maybe the better way to do it is that they need to be able to take advantage of their chances that on the power play. That's also the flip side of it, is that the Ducks had 4 power play chances tonight and only were able to score on 1. Now, granted, some of those were a little bit shortened type of ones with the penalties coming in the middle of a Blackhawks penalty. But still, I mean, that still is a relevant piece of information. But yeah, overall, I don't think this was a bad performance by the Ducks. They had a lot of good chances. A lot of people were kind of down on it because it was very choppy, and I don't disagree with that. But I don't think it was a bad performance by this Ducks team. I think the main issue you can have with it is the fact that they're playing the Blackhawks, who aren't that great, to be honest, and they're on the back end of back-to-back, and you'd like to see a better result, and not just see the Ducks kind of play better than the Blackhawks, but see them significantly play better than the Blackhawks.
Positive for tonight for the Ducks, and this isn't the sexiest takeaway, but it's just looking at the pairings, the stats for the 3 pairings tonight. Hampus Lindholm and Erica Branson only were -1 in terms of shot attempts, and they actually won the expected goal battle, so 53% on ice share. So they didn't get outplayed at all. If anything, they were, if not exceeding that a little bit, which is a really good sign when you have Erica Branson out there in meaningful minutes next to Hampus Lindholm. That's something that has actually occurred a couple of times now with good Branson and Lindholm playing together. And so looking also at Jacob Larson next to Michael Delzato, again, they were not spectacular in terms of shot attempts. They were at a clean 50%, so neither good nor bad. But from that from that third pairing, which can only be a third pairing, I mean, that's not a duo that you can really put in any other role. that's really all that you can ask for. And their expected goals percentage was actually really good. It was 79%. So that's a huge positive for the Ducks that those two can function together.
Yeah.
And then Josh Maher and Cam Fowler, kind of the same deal. Just holding steady and winning the quality battle. So I think moving forward, this is the biggest battle that the Ducks are facing right now. It's on the blue line, and it's more of a silent battle. It's not something that we really think about as much because D-men are really only tasked with, okay, get the puck up to the forwards, or okay, just don't get scored on. But that, in Josh Manson's absence, and as they try to figure things out without Brendan Gooley, I mean, that's going to kind of be the difference here, because the way that Dallas Eakins, I think, wants this team to play is an up and down style. And if your D-men just all their time in their own zone or not able to get it up to the forwards, that's ultimately going to prevent you from playing how you want to. Mm-hmm. And so if they can continue to do this, well, then, hey, you're looking at a situation where the Ducks can at least continue to pick up points in the standings, which is what they're doing right now.
Yep. So I think it's that time of the night. It's time for some questions. So for those of you watching the recorded version of this on YouTube, yes, we do put the show on YouTube, and if you want to subscribe and like our videos there, it will help out significantly. I do look at our comments there also, or listen to the recorded version of this on your favorite podcast service. We do a live stream of this show each and every time, and you can find us at twitch.tv/acpod, where you can watch and tune in live, interact with us in the chat. If you hear me mention the chat, that is why. It's a really good time, and you can also support the show. If you have Amazon Prime, you have Twitch Prime, which means you have a way to support your favorite streamer out there. You do have to hit that subscribe button each and every month, every 30 days. It is above Felix's head. Felix, point up. Or wow, yeah, up for Twitch, down for YouTube. And you can also push on our heads, I guess, is what you can do to hit the subscribe button on the mobile app or the iOS app. But regardless, it's a way for you to support the show. You get special badges next to your name, special emotes in the chat, and we will prioritize your questions on busier nights. So here we go. We have a question from STF Ushane asks, what is your favorite Getzlaf moment?
Ryan Getzlaf moment actually goes way further back than this podcast ever being on or me really following the Ducks. I think it was 2010 or 2011, the famous fight against Joe Thornton. Was it the first round of the playoffs?
That would have been 2009.
Yeah, I distinctly remember that because my friends were all my high school teammates were Sharks fans, and we were watching at a restaurant, and I just remember right off the draw, the two captains just duking it out. I thought, man, these guys want to win really bad. So that's always stuck out to me in my memory.
I'm really going to have to go back in my memory bank here, because that would have been one I would have gone for. I mean, I'm remembering a goal that comes to mind is he had a shorthanded goal in the 2013 series against Detroit. It may have been in Game 4 or Game 6, so I don't know if the Ducks actually would have even won that game. But it was just a really big goal from him in a shorthanded situation. And I just remember the celebration by him was just so great. And so not exactly a big moment, but it's just a goal that sticks out in my head. And is just a very fun goal to look back on, basically. So, next question that we've got is from Zenas8. Who has looked better, Michael Del Zotto or Korbinian Holzer?
Question we've ever gotten on this podcast, by far. I'm going to go... all right, give me your take, because I need to think about this.
I'm going to go with Michael Del Zotto. I think he's looked better in the games.
Is that just you picking a guy?
Probably.
I think I'm going to go Del Zotto as well, because at least he's been able to chip in some power play minutes, whereas Holzer is just, man, he's been fighting it a little bit lately. So yeah, I guess Michael Del Zotto, but don't take this as a big endorsement of Del Zotto, just more speaking to the fact that both guys have not been all that great.
All right, Infinite Gesture. Let's go with two more questions just to kind of wrap this thing up with the little bit of technical difficulties that we're experiencing on the live stream. Infinite Jester asks, question, is the decision last year to trade Pettersson and keep Larson still looking good in hindsight? I'd
2020. Let's first mention that. Hindsight is 2020. I think at the time it was a defensible trade. The Ducks had Larson in the bag and needed some offense up front. And so I think that the Ducks would still make that trade again. That being said, though, now it does not look that great because Daniel Sprong is in the minors and Jacob Larson has not really been all that impactful, whereas Marcus Pettersson has thrived in Pittsburgh.
Yep.
So I don't think the trade looks good, but I don't think that that's necessarily a fair way to evaluate it because you have to evaluate a trade on, okay, what was the available information at the time of the trade? What were the likeliest scenarios? And I don't think that this was the likeliest thing to happen.
And when
it was in play for sure,
and when
but I don't think this was it.
And when you also look at the fact that I believe Marcus Pettersson is a right-handed shot defenseman, so you add that into the mix. Was he? You're cutting out slightly, Felix, on me. But regardless, so if he was a right-handed shot defenseman, that would kind of not look great with the fact that they traded Daniel Sprong. So let's end with this question. So who's more valuable, Sam Steele or Max Jones?
Is that
from Lockdown Late Night?
Yeah, so I would definitely say Sam Steele.
Yep.
Although Sam Steele has not necessarily been dominant lately. I think just being a center, being in the role he's in, where he's playing behind two established guys in Getzlaf and Henrique, he has an opportunity to be extremely impactful. Whereas Max Jones, at this point, is just kind of hoping to stay in the lineup. So definitely Sam Steele by a long shot.
Yeah, I 100% agree. Also, when you look at positions that they play, you're evaluating a center versus a winger. You're evaluating a guy that put up significant amount of points. I think Sam Steele projects to be a more impactful player long-term than Max Jones. That's just my view and my take on it, though.
Yeah, well, we'll see. I mean, again, it's one of those things with Max Jones where when I watch him play, I think he has moments where he looks really good. It's just that he's almost on the wrong team. It's one of those things where if he were on a team that didn't have as many guys on the left side crowding that slot up, maybe he would get more of an opportunity in the top six. That being said, though, he's gotten really good opportunities so far with the Ducks. So I think at this point, he's going to not have to reinvent himself a little bit, but I think he's going to have to decide, okay, what am I going to have to do here to not necessarily hit my potential, but at least give myself the opportunity to hit my potential. And I think, like we were talking about earlier, he's going to have to become a bit more in the Nick Ritchie mold, where he's just a solid guy at 5-on-5 who's reliable and who can just be a mainstay in the lineup and not necessarily be a flashy offensive player, but just a guy who can at least be a contributor. And hey, if he's able to meet that baseline, then maybe eventually we'll see some of the offensive gifts come out a little bit more.
All right. Actually, we have one more question now that you've transitioned to a more
superior equipment.
Yes. So let's end with this, because have you seen the GIF going around the internet? The GIF that's taken over hockey Twitter. Lewis asked the question, do all Habs fans eat mayo out of jars?
What are we talking about?
Have you not seen this GIF?
I have not. Now I'm going to look it up.
Now I'm going to find.
I'm very curious.
I'm going to try to find it.
Eat mayo out of jars?
Yeah, there was a GIF that came out. I'm going to our good buddy Lewis's Twitter timeline because I'm hoping he tweeted the GIF, retweeted the GIF of it. But it was disgusting. There was someone sitting in the stands at some game. I don't know where it was, and they were eating mayo out of a jar.
Mm-hmm.
It was, the Stars tweeted it.
I see it.
You've seen it?
What the heck is that?
It's a jar of mayo.
Oh, that is so gross.
They're representing your fan base.
Oh, that's just so nasty.
They're representing your fan base.
I got a little nauseous looking at that. So for those who haven't seen it yet, it's a lady sitting there with maybe the biggest jar of mayo I've ever seen in my life. That is I mean, unless she's a small person, that is a very large jar of mayo. And she's just taking spoons from it. That is
our good friend Lockdown Late Night put a link to it in our Twitch chat. So for anyone watching on the Twitch stream, there's a link to it now in the Twitch chat. They're representing your fan base.
I mean, man, that is bad.
Habs fans will forever be associated with mayo.
What the hell? I don't think I mean, I like mayo. I think it's a good condiment, but I don't like it. I don't like any condiment enough to just take spoonfuls of it.
The best thing is
disgusting.
the best thing is the guy dipping his fry in it.
Well, that's fine. That's normal.
I guess.
The
spoonful of it legitimately makes me want to vomit right now.
Oh God! And she looks so happy. She's like smiling. She's like explaining it to people.
It can't
like,
be.
Yeah, this is totally normal.
It can't be actual mayo. It has to be something different.
What could it possibly be?
I don't know. It has to be a joke. It has to be a prank. There's no way. First off, she snuck a thing of mayo into it.
Yeah, that thing looks like a tub of like protein powder.
And that is like a massive spoon. It's a like that has to be like a plant.
Now I want to know the story behind this.
The Stars have to have like planted someone in the stands for it.
Yeah, it has to be. That's disgusting.
Zenaz8 said it looks like she raided one of the in-arena restaurants.
Yeah, honestly, it might just be that, like the Stars thing, because that's just so stereotypical. So I think that they're just trying to like exaggerate.
Are we just gonna ruin people's fun by saying it was a plant?
I'm calling fake news on this one. Sorry. Anyway, that's freaking gross, though. That made me want to hurl.
I think that's a good way. Oh, El Miko said she's probably on the keto diet.
I mean,
high in fat.
That is a very keto move, to be sure. No denying that.
Well,
man,
I think that's a good way to. I think that's a good way to end this episode.
Is it a good way to end it?
Sure.
It makes me want to end it because now I want to go.
Go to the bathroom for a bit.
Resolve my issue. Oh God, yeah, that isn't good. Just want to point out, just on a random sidebar note, the Ducks are still third in the Pacific Division, and now the San Jose Sharks are dead last in the Western Conference at 4-10-1. They're 4-10-1.
I just really tend to not look at the standings.
I know.
Just because it's not even by like a, it's not even by like or per rule. It's just like I tend just to not care, not think that it doesn't come into my head that it's something I should be looking at this point in time in the season. But yeah, that's crazy. They're 4-10. They're 4-10-1.
I mean,
the Minnesota, the Kings are better than them.
Yeah, I mean. But yeah, I mean, like, sure, yeah, the standings, you don't really want to look too much at them early on, but we're 15 games in. Like, the season is real now, and the top three in the Pacific are Edmonton, Vancouver, and Anaheim, just like we all expected, just like we all saw coming.
Yeah.
Man, yeah. So, like, that's what I'm saying here is that with the Ducks finding their rhythm defensively, things of that nature, is like this is a great time for them to pick up points because you have other teams like Vegas, Calgary, who are kind of just not really separating themselves from the pack yet, and San Jose that's just completely out to lunch. So this is, if they can pick up points now, that's money in the bank for later on, especially if they, once they get fully healthy. Who knows? By the way, I don't know what you guys talked about on Friday, but what do you make of that Vancouver Canucks team? They might be good.
I think they're pretty decent. We didn't really talk too much about the Canucks, to be honest. Mm-hmm. We more kind of looked at the Ducks and how they played, different things like that. I thought the Canucks were actually pretty decent, though. I think that their forward group's fun.
It's very fun.
It's very, very fun. They still have some issues with some of the higher paid players lower in their lineup, but I think Tyler Myers, I mean, a couple years from now, that's going to be an albatross of a contract, but he helps them right now. And
it's all about right now.
Their top three of Alex Edler, Tyler Myers, and Chris Tanev. That's a pretty good top three defenseman in this league. And then you add in Quinn Hughes to the mix, and it sounds like he was. I don't know if he played.
He's fine.
He's fine. Yeah. So that's a pretty decent defense core. And then you have Pettersson, Besser, JT Miller, for all the gripes about that trade, he's still a pretty decent player. So
he's fun to watch, too.
I think that's a good team. The crazy thing with the Sharks is their expected goals for percentage is also pretty bad. I mean, granted, the Ducks actually are right around with them, but we're also comparing the Ducks, who we expected to be a fringe
have no
playoff.
Expectations.
Yeah, versus the Sharks, who are supposed to be in the Stanley Cup contending mix. So this may not be a blip on the radar with the Sharks being last in the league. I mean, they're minus 20 in terms of goal difference. The crazy one, Arizona, plus 10 in goal difference.
Well, here's what I find crazier, because the Coyotes do have a 54% expected goals for percentage.
Yeah.
It's that the Kings are number 1 in the NHL in expected goals for percentage.
That's weird. They don't have the talent. They don't have the scoring talent right now, but Todd McClellan's coaching them up right now, which is funny because he's calling out all of his players.
I think I would really be curious to go back and look. Has he just called out everyone on the roster by now? Like, has anyone been spared? I mean, Tyler Toffoli's been scratched, which caused an uproar. Following Kings beat writers right now is actually really fun, just for the Todd McClellan factor.
Yeah.
But yeah, I mean, the Kings are 5-9, and looking at their numbers, I mean, you could argue they should be much higher in the standings than that.
Yeah.
So
the Ducks are in the mix though. The Ducks are going to continue.
The Ducks are 26th.
No, I'm saying in the playoff mix. I think the Ducks are going to continue to be in this playoff mix.
Yeah, they will be.
By the way, I'm now just kind of going to the NHL's website, looking at standings. You want to know what's the most NHL thing of all time? They haven't updated their standings for the correct tiebreaker.
Really?
So it may be correct, I don't know, but it still says regulation plus overtime wins, which is not the tiebreaker anymore.
What is it?
It's just regulation wins now.
Oh.
Which I'm very pro that change, because 3-on-3 overtime is a skills competition, so you're eliminating that.
You shouldn't encourage teams to try to pick up the point.
Yeah, and so it's funny that it's regulation overtime wins are still in the are still in there, and this.
How are you feeling about your preseason predictions right now?
I don't even remember my preseason predictions right now. So great.
That seems very. I remember them, and that seems very. Very fortunate. Very convenient.
Did you predict the Edmonton Oilers to have 21 points?
No, I did not. I predicted them to miss the playoffs, but I just want to point out that I was a Nashville optimist, and they are second in Central.
I was not a Nashville optimist.
I just want to point that out. I think I also had Washington winning the Metro, which they currently lead.
Nashville's also 2 points in the playoffs.
Yeah, but they also have the 10th highest expected goals for percentage.
Yeah.
So they are good. They are a good team. Anyway.
Yeah, this has basically been turned into one of our bonus episodes now.
I know. Well, we were supposed to do one this weekend, but you were unavailable.
Wait, we were?
So.
Are we now just airing dirty laundry about scheduling?
I thought about proposing one this weekend, but I didn't.
Wow.
Yeah.
Calling me out.
Yeah. Sorry. By the way, though, your Coyotes number 3 in the league in expected goals for percentage,
and they are almost in the playoffs.
Actually, the Hurricanes are 2 and the Coyotes are 3.
Yeah, Hurricanes.
So this is basically a Jake Rudolph dream scenario.
Yeah, the 2 teams that I've been on board with for the last year and a half. Very good.
The two teams that you want to own jerseys of.
Yeah. Also Montreal, but let's not get into that. I've talked about that before in the past.
They are very good.
It's a good jersey. They are
very good. You would own a Hurricanes jersey, really?
Maybe their home jersey, or maybe
I don't think
their
their jerseys
jersey.
their jerseys are not good.
Wait, sorry, we got a question. Why Arizona? When asking towards me, the big
Jake loves the Coyotes. Jake loves the Coyotes for whatever reason.
I want to see them do well, and they have some good players. They have had one of the best defense cores in the league for the last couple of years.
Well,
I've gone on record saying that.
To answer the question, the Coyotes are an analytics franchise, quote unquote, which is why Jake wants to see them do well.
I mean, the defense core is also really good.
It's okay.
Jalmerson,
okay.
Ekman Larson.
Jalmerson's old now. Why do people still think he's very good? He's okay. Yeah, I mean, Arizona, what's funny about them is that they're doing well because they're just playing this shutdown style. They're not like a high flying offensive team. They're just good defensively.
Phil Kessel
hasn't done anything. He's done nothing. He has no tie to their success besides increasing the hot dog consumption on the team.
Wow.
Just kidding. He has 9 points in 13 games. But he's a -1. He's a -1. Okay.
I hate plus minus so much.
All right. We should probably get out of here before I make more comments that are not good. So if you've been enjoying the show, hey, actually, if you've been enjoying the banter we've been on here for the last 10 minutes, then I highly, highly recommend that you check out our Patreon page. That's at patreon.com/acpod. For $5 a month, you get 2 episodes of 50 minutes of that, an hour of that. Just us talking about the league, bantering about.
People in the Twitch chat can basically confirm that that's exactly what it is.
That's what it is, and it's fun. We enjoy it, and by the transitive property, you will enjoy it as well. Also, if you don't want to do $5 a month, but you still want to show some support, give us a little pat on the back. You can just pledge $1 a month, and you get access to our patrons only chat, where we can react to breaking news, and we can just talk Ducks at any time, basically. And then once again, that's at patreon.com/acpod. But if you just don't want to involve money in any way, whether it's with the Twitch stream that we talked about earlier or the Patreon account, you can always just leave an Apple Podcast review. That's a really easy, free, and not time-consuming way to support the show. Do we have any new reviews?
No, we read the most recent one on the last podcast, or maybe 2 ago. So, no new reviews. I do want to make mention that Lockdown Late Night, our good buddy Justin, resubscribed for 7 months today to our Twitch channel. So, said, gotta love the AC pod. Keep up the great work, Jake and Felix. So, want to give him a shout out for that.
Thank you. He is very good. Okay. We might have to start making t-shirts. Very good.
Yeah, the AC pod is very good. Right?
I've started saying that in my day-to-day, and it sounds so dumb.
Yes.
I've
worked my way into your everyday.
Nah, I started it. Anyway.
What?
We need to get out of here. Jake is on Twitter at ReindeerGames91. Make sure to check him out there. I'm on Twitter at Felix_Sicard. I have an article going up within the next couple days here it's either going to be about Troy Terry or about the Ducks young players. It's whichever one gets published first. So make sure to check both of us out on Twitter. Also check out AnaheimCalling.com and at AnaheimCalling on Twitter. If you're not an Apple Podcast listener, you can always check us out on Spotify, on Stitcher, pretty much wherever you get your podcasts, also YouTube. That's going to do it for us tonight, guys. We're going to be back coming at you live Tuesday night following the Ducks matchup against the Minnesota Wild. Only one of the two of us will have actually watched the game, which is fine. That one person will be me.
What? What?
And the Ducks will then be back on Sunday after the...
Bye!